Well, it's 12 o'clock and we said we'd start at noon, and I know everybody has things to do, and I want to thank everyone who turned out today, current and former state reps and so many friends that I hadn't seen in some years, and also the media for coming out. Probably take me 10 or 15 minutes to go through the points that I want to make, and then we're happy to take some questions. Today I want to announce right up front, let's get it out on the table, that I'm a candidate for the United States Senate. It's probably pretty safe to say that the press you never thought we'd be doing this together again. Some of you got as many gray hairs as I have, and it's been a long time, but the feeling is mutual. I didn't expect to be here either, so we're even on that. But there are too many people in Washington today who have no sense of urgency regarding the challenges that we face to the survival of our nation. That's why I'm here. Too many who run for office who have not the slightest idea why America is exceptional and no vision to restore its greatness. It's time for Thomas Paine's summer soldiers and sunshine patriots to depart the scene and give way to a movement of grassroots freedom fighters who will stand up to the establishment and chart a new course for this country. Since I left Congress in 2003, Washington has added $10 trillion to the national debt. We have a national security agency that spies on its citizens. We have an IRS that harasses the administration's ideological opponents, no matter what administration it is. That's sad and bad. We have a president who ignores the law and ignores the Constitution. We have a foreign policy that has emboldened our enemies and frankly confused and alienated our own allies. We left an ambassador to die in Benghazi, their ambassador, and our ambassador. America's military is being cut to the bone, yet we ask our troops to do more. As you all know, as we speak, as we stand here today, 16,000 at least Russian troops are in the Ukraine. We have a healthcare system that is just on the brink of disaster. If our current leaders were serious about restoring our constitutional republic, balancing our budget, reducing our debt, and strengthening our military, and setting policies to create new jobs, I wouldn't be standing here today. There would be no reason. I would not be running. But it's not about me, nor is it about any other candidate. It's not about any political party. It's not about the Republicans, the Democrats. It's about saving the United States of America. Every single voter who votes in this election here in New Hampshire and all across America needs to understand one basic thing. The stakes are high. And the theme of my campaign is very simple. Sacrifice your freedoms on the altar of the central planners in Washington, or reclaim your liberties and freedoms under our Constitution. That's what this campaign is about. And it'll be a great debate, and I look forward to it with my opponents. I know which side I'm on, and I really am anxious to have that debate. The fact is, Washington is broken, out of control, and I'm prepared, that's why I'm here, to make whatever personal sacrifice it may take to wrest it from the insiders, from the establishment of both political parties, and put it back into the hands of the people. I have the experience, the knowledge, the fortitude to lead and to work with others. I've done it before. I'm battle tested. Defeating Washington's central planners and the insiders, that's not going to be an easy job. They'll be personal, they'll be vicious, and they'll stop at nothing to retain their power. Because it's very important that they do. This is a war between them and us, and we have to win. I'm ready. Merle Haggard wrote a song in which he said, it was called, "Are the good times really over for good? Are we rolling downhill like a snowball headed for hell with no kind of chance for the flag or the Liberty Bell?" I don't think so. And if you listen to the rest of the song, he doesn't either. He says that we can save America. Absolutely, we can. I believe America is poised for one of the greatest turnarounds in the history of our country. There is so much potential pent up, not only for economic growth, but for expansion of freedom. They go hand in hand. You don't get one without the other. Freedom and growth. I'm going to identify a few challenges, and I'm going to offer specific solutions. Because you hear over and over again, well, they always want to come out and criticize, and nobody's got any solution. So listen carefully. I'll be brief. I can't cover them all. But I'm going to give you a challenge that we have to face. And I say challenge, not problem, because problem may or may not be solved. Challenges we meet, because we have to. Number one, defeat Washington's central planners, the bureaucrats, the government types that plan all of our future. The Constitution was written to limit the power of government. It was not meant to restrict or limit the freedoms of the people. Protecting the rights of the individual is critical to a free, safe, and prosperous nation. Voters here in New Hampshire and across America can send a message by throwing out of office those who want to live their lives and plan their lives because they think government knows the best. Voters have the opportunity to choose their own destiny in a free nation, or they can follow a path to decay, chosen for them by somebody else in government who thinks they know better. Is that what we're about? I offer my candidacy to those who would prefer to choose their own destiny in a free nation. Challenge number two, break up the insider's insidious game, and it is insidious. America's wealthiest counties, think about it, those of you who have been to Washington, D.C., surround Washington. They're the wealthiest places. Potomac, McLean. All because the insider power brokers have made government their industry. That's how they make a living, from your money. They profit from the American taxpayers. Washington has lost its way. Instead of working for us, it's working against us. It's not what it's supposed to do. It's a corrupt game. It's a bad game where the desires of the individual are buried and the insiders thrive. Not right. It's just plain wrong. It's got to be stopped. It's time to throw the insiders out and make them the outsiders and return the power back to the people. Here's how we do it. Have a reasonable amount of time for congressmen and senators to read all bills and allow ample debate. Read them. Wow, what an exciting thing, right? Read bills. No more votes on bills that nobody reads. Easy to do. We just make that the rule. The Congressional Budget Office should be required to state before the vote the impact on the budget. End all earmarks. All committee discussions and conferences should be public to identify all those who propose pork barrel projects. All 13 appropriation bills should be passed individually. No more continuing resolutions with everything loaded up so that we have government shutdowns. No more of that. No more omnibus spending bills. Lobbyists make suggestions for the content of the bill. Let the lobbyist identify himself publicly. Put the very language in there. Lobbyist organization X, put this language in the bill, word for word. Let's hear from him. Third challenge, rein in the federal courts. Too many judges ignore the Constitution. I don't care what side of the political spectrum they're on. If they're not paying attention to the Constitution and they're imposing their personal views and legislating from the bench, that is wrong. And I'm going to introduce legislation to provide term limits for all federal judges. Lifetime is too long. Judges should be properly vetted, including personal background checks and earlier decisions put on the table so we can read them all before the Senate votes on confirmation. The fourth challenge, end illegal immigration and respect the rule of law. Illegal aliens unfairly tax our citizens. Estimates run from 10 to 18 million, depending on where you read it. 10 to 18 million illegal aliens residing in the United States, costing taxpayers billions of dollars. It's unfair. It's simply unfair. We're a nation of legal immigrants who proudly contributed to the growth and defense of our nation. I'm going to support and enforce the current laws on the books to control illegal immigration and keep our borders secure. And I will oppose amnesty. Number 5 challenge. Promote peace through strength. I stole that from Ronald Reagan. I'm sure he wouldn't mind because he was correct. He believed, as I do, that there's no better path to peace than a strong and ready military. When we see what's happening in the world today, we can understand why. A weak military and a weak foreign policy emboldens our enemies and confuses and alienates our allies. Over the last few years, we've seen chaos in Libya and Egypt, Iraq and Afghanistan, after all the sacrifices we've made in money and human life, are now slowly slipping back to the terrorists. Iran moves toward nuclear weapons. An ambassador, as I said, is left to die in Benghazi. And now the Russians in the Ukraine. The very survival of our only true ally in the Middle East, Israel, is under severe threat. And I mean severe threat. I spent 12 years on the United States Senate Armed Services Committee and time in Vietnam with the U.S. Navy. I understand what force strength means, and I understand what weapons deployment means, and I know where to put them and when to put them. And I'm prepared to resume that leadership role again when I worked with Reagan so long ago to keep our military strong. 6th and very important challenge. Stop an out-of-control federal government and grow this economy. The biggest obstacle to freedom and job growth is a bloated, out-of-control federal government. Government doesn't create wealth. President Obama's always talking about spreading the wealth around, doesn't talk about creating it. Government doesn't create it. It's got to get out of the way and let the private sector do what it's supposed to do, create wealth. Private markets create prosperity. We all know this. Except the left, they don't seem to have that figured out yet. The administration believes it can create jobs and stimulate the economy and goes about mindlessly doing dumb things. Another $3 trillion in stimulus money. All right. What do we have to show for it? $3 trillion more for our kids to have to pay for down the road. We can't continue to bust the budget, hike the debt, loot the treasury, and pay for more programs that simply don't work. We can unshackle and unleash the economy and create good-paying jobs. We just need to get the government out of the way. And here's what I'm going to do specifically for those who say, well, he doesn't have any options. Specifically, we're going to cut the taxes on individuals and businesses. We're going to eliminate the capital gains tax, eliminate the death tax, lower the marginal rates, bring back companies who've gone offshore because they can't function here. They've got $1 trillion in offshore money. Could you imagine them bringing that back here and putting it into jobs and growth? That's the climate I want to create so that these companies will come back, and even better, that they'll never leave in the first place. I'm going to sponsor a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution, which I've done before, but we need to pass it. We lost it by 1 vote when I was in the Senate. This will limit the size of government to 19% of GDP and require a balanced budget. Put an end to the budget gimmickry that says that a cut, an increase is a cut. I mean, that's what we do. We say it's going to go up 6%, then we put it up 3%, we say we cut 3%. You know, you guys can do the math on that. We got to have the political courage to reform entitlement programs that protect today's retirees and make the reforms needed to make the programs work for tomorrow's retirees. Cut spending by eliminating error, waste, fraud, abuse. Eliminate earmarks and pork barrel spending. Cut the bureaucracy. Force every government agency to justify its existence every 2 years or every budget cycle. Why are you here? What are you doing? Are you wasting money? Justify your existence. Dramatically reduce burdensome regulations on all businesses and individuals so that we can spur the economy along with new growth. And most important, respect the states' rights under the 10th Amendment of the Constitution and return these unconstitutional federal programs back to the states where they can be run cheaper and more efficiently. Number 7, challenge. End the central planner's infringement on our personal liberty. We have NSA spying on private citizens. We have seen the harassment of political opponents by this administration, by the IRS, of all agencies. Anybody gone through an audit? These people are godlike, and yet they now are harassing political opponents. And remember, they're also administering the Obama health care program. That's comfortable. I have an 18-year established 100% voting record in favor of the Second Amendment to protect the rights of gun owners, a constitutional right. I will continue to stand my ground and remain vigilant on their behalf, and you have that promise. Nobody likes to talk about it, but I do. There's no freedom more precious than the freedom of the right to be born. Every citizen has that right to enjoy the blessings of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I will continue to stand with innocent children who are unable to speak for themselves. I lost a dad when I was 3 years old. He had 4 siblings, all of whom died before the age of 20 from epilepsy. They never got to live their dream. Life is very precious to me. The most recent and insidious assault, and I'm going to spend a couple of minutes on this, on the freedom of Americans is Obamacare. This will be a key issue in this campaign. Well, it should be. It's one of the largest obstacles to creating jobs. Because of Obamacare, companies want to expand, that want to expand and hire more people. They've taken a wait-and-see attitude. They said, well, what's going to happen? They want to know before they hire. What are the costs going to be? But Obama keeps changing the rules. We were told by the President and by Senator Shaheen that Obamacare was going to reduce the cost of insurance. But for most people, it went up. We were told by Obama and Senator Shaheen that we would offer more choices. Yet in New Hampshire, there's only one company offering health insurance. We were told by Senator Shaheen and the President that if we liked our insurance plan, we could keep it. Well, that's not true. 22,000 people to date have lost their insurance, even though they were satisfied with the plan. And now Harry Reid is calling Obamacare victims liars. We were told we could keep our doctors in the hospitals. Well, that's not true. We're not able to keep our doctors in hospitals. In fact, at least a dozen hospitals are not even going to be able to service patients. Obamacare allows you to choose from 4 plans. Listen to this now. Obamacare allows you, this is America, but they allow you to choose 4 plans. Isn't that wonderful? They're limiting your freedom to buy a product and telling you you have to purchase something. Imagine 300 million people, 4 plans. What's next? 4 kinds of cars? 4 kinds of houses? 4 brands of potato chips? I don't know. Who knows? We were not told the truth about Obamacare. And those who told us untruths have to pay the political price for it. That's the way it is in America. And Senator Shaheen knew it when we weren't told the truth when she cast her vote. I promise the people of New Hampshire that I will vote to repeal Obamacare and do everything that I can in my power to get it to that point where we can have that vote. I support portability. I support covering pre-existing conditions. I support being able to purchase a plan from another state. I support medical savings accounts. Freedom, healthy markets, and healthy people go hand in hand. They go together. Obamacare is based on an old discredited theory that big government and central planners know everything best. You don't know anything. There's no place for this stuff in a free society. And the final challenge, maybe the most important. Pass America on to a new generation. Passionate, principled, freedom-loving, constitutional leaders. This is our greatest challenge, ladies and gentlemen. These are our kids. If we meet the challenges that I've outlined above, we will unshackle the young people, the young today, who will create the future of tomorrow. Young people will have a prominent role in this campaign of mine. There'd be some here today, except they're having midterms at UNH. I can't interfere with that. So I've met with dozens of them personally. It's their state, it's their country, and they're not sunshine patriots. You ought to hear them talk. They're raring to go. To pit their appetite for freedom against the central planners. I am really inspired by their enthusiasm and their patriotism. They're ready to claim their inheritance. They're ready to claim their inheritance. The economy is ripe right now for dramatic growth if we just unleash it. The central planners need to be swept away. Young people know that they will be the leaders of a new birth of freedom, and they'll light America up with new innovations, new technologies, new investments, new solutions, new energy. Just give them a chance, and new cures for diseases that will improve our quality of life. Dr. Ben Carson commented the other day on television that he had gone to Germany, where we have national health care. They have national health care. And he spoke to a doctor friend of his who told him, Dr. Carson, I'm so disappointed with what happened in America when you passed a national health care system. And Carson said, why? You live with it here. He said, because you are the innovators. You are the innovators. You're going to come up with the new technologies, the new cures. We are the providers. We're better than that. We're not just providers, we're the innovators. How's that going to happen under a government-run healthcare plan? These young people now will step forward and lead these companies into new, good-paying jobs. They know what's at stake, and they're ready. President Reagan, paraphrasing Lincoln, said, America is the last best hope of man on earth. The last best hope. And in that spirit of Reagan optimism, I'm going to ask the people of New Hampshire to join with me to meet those challenges, because this is what we do. We're Americans. We're Americans. Washington, we owe it to Washington and his troops at Valley Forge. We owe it to those guys that scaled the cliffs in Normandy and started the way to free Central Europe from the Nazis. And we also owe it to them. Those are my 3 grandchildren. Tommy, Ellie, and Nate. Look in the eyes of yours and ask yourself, do I really want them to grow up in a nation that they can't pick their doctor, they can't pick their health insurance, they can't have freedom, NSA is spying on them? Or do you want them to grow up into a nation of freedom where they can live their dreams, fulfill their dreams, the things they want to do in life? That's the choice that we face. This is serious. Failure is not an option. Join with me right here, right now, right in New Hampshire, and let's take our nation back. God bless America. Thank you. I know many of you as reporters, and you know if I know you. If there are some, though, that follow us around from the other side. So I'm just going to ask you, when you ask a question, say who you are and who you're with, and then I'll know. I know some of you don't need to do it, but go ahead, anybody.
Senator John DeStaso from the Union Leader. It's the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and I know maybe your supporters would like to be invoking the name of Scott Brown already. But what do you make of this whole flirtation that he's doing with New Hampshire? Do you think he'd be a good senator, and do you think the Republican Party in the state is kind of urging him to run? What do you make of all that?
Well, John, I don't know what Scott Brown is going to do. I was told that he had signed a contract extension with Fox, or at least I saw it somewhere in a news release. I mean, I can't conduct my campaign based on somebody else. I know what I believe. I know what I want to do, and I'm prepared to take my campaign to people. And I believe that in a primary, the voters have to sort it out. The question really boils down to this: which candidate can show a clear delineation, a clear difference between his or herself and the other side? More freedom, less freedom. More government, less government, etc. down the line. Who can do that? That's the decision for the voters to make. And whoever runs is out of my control. I can control me, but I can't control anyone else. So I don't know what he's going to do, and I don't really care. My campaign is going to move forward no matter if he runs or not. And if others choose to have him to encourage his candidacy, great. It's a free country. Knock yourself out. I look forward to it.
Holly Raymark from AP. Scott Brown aside, there are other candidates who have made up their minds and are running. And so how do you differentiate yourself from them? I mean, in a primary, people are going to be choosing between them and you. And are they not putting forward the views that you think?
Well, I think the decision is up to the voters. I think all of us, I respect every candidate who runs. God bless them for putting their names out there and being, Lord knows I know how tough that is to do. And I have the greatest respect for any opponent on either side of the aisle who puts their name out there and espouses what they believe. I think in a primary where you do have similarities among issues, I believe it's important that you have to go to the next level, which is which of the candidates that you think, if try to envision a debate with Gene Shaheen down the road and say who's going to be able to take the issues, accent them, differentiate yourself from the other side. And this is not about any candidate, as I said. This is about, in my view, the future of our country. Into which way do we want to go? And that's a decision that the voters, I'm confident, will sort out. They always do. And that's the way. I'm not going to be running against anybody in the primary. I'm running for what I believe in and how I will conduct myself as a candidate. I do have some background and experience that perhaps others don't, but that's up to the voters to determine whether that's important or not.
Senator Smith? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Ladies first.
All right.
Oh, I'm Kathleen Running from the Concord Monitor. You've obviously been gone from New Hampshire for a long time in Florida, and you've made some decisions that I think people would consider pretty interesting, endorsing John Kerry in 2004, getting into the Senate race in Florida, dropping out. Why should voters believe that you're serious this time and you're with the Republican Party and you're the right candidate?
Well, you got a lot of questions there.
That's a lot.
First of all of those questions are answered on my website for those of you that want further. Then I'll go here. I had indicated on the Kerry letter it was a mistake. It was a stupid thing to do. I got angry, and I acted in anger. I wrote a letter. I should have torn it up, and I didn't. I sent it, and he put it in the newspapers, which I don't blame him for doing. But it was a mistake, and I should not have done it, and I'm not proud of it. So that's all I can do. And I would close on that point by saying that if there are those who believe that that's the defining moment, that was yesterday, but if that's a defining moment for them and they feel that they can't support me, I respect it completely. And they need to pick another candidate, I'm fine with that. But all I can do is apologize for a mistake.
And I guess also kind of part of that question, why should New Hampshire voters believe that you know what's best for them right now?
I'm not saying I know what's best for them. That's the whole point of my of what I believe and what I mean. Look, I was in my being out of the state for a while, in and out. I never gave up my home. My home's here. It's our family compound. I'm here 4 or 5 months of the year on the times that those years in question. And I was here in 2012, as most of you know, campaigning for Newt Gingrich for president, so my presence was here. I have family in Wolfboro, and still do. So I understand the point. As far as Florida, those are things, people, when you're out of office and you're in another location, people in the party find out you're a U.S. Senator or were, they ask you to speak, and then they start asking you to do other things. And in order to be able to conduct any activity at all, even if people encourage you to run for office, you have to file with the Federal Election Commission. If you raise $5,000 or people give you $5,000, so I did. But neither one of those were serious campaign efforts.
Senator Scott Rogers, New Hampshire Public Radio. Obviously, you've won races here, you've lost races here. You've been in a lot of races.
More fun to win.
None of them lately. What do you say to those people who might say, fine, Bob Smith, I respect him, his day is come and gone?
That's fine. That's fine. You got a problem with old people, or? Watch out now, that's dangerous territory. I know you got. I mean,
Bill Clinton is not the only comeback kid.
that's right. There was a guy named Reagan that did pretty well for us in his 70s. So,
Bob, you're older than, you're younger than that now.
That's true. That's true. But I'm not going to hold. I'm not going to hold their youthful inexperience, as Reagan said. I won't hold it against them. No, I mean, look. There's some people stuff it always tickles me. They know who are these some people. I mean, those whoever they are, they have a perfect right to vote for somebody else. If they don't like my age, they can vote for somebody else younger. There are out there, so that's okay. I don't think that matters. We got some people that did pretty well in their later years. Ben Franklin for one, Ronald Reagan for two, Margaret Thatcher. We could go down the list quite a bit. Yes.
Senator, most people, it's taken 20 years, but most people, especially economists, agree that it's globalization and the advancement of technology and not necessarily corporate tax rates or even the Affordable Care Act that are causing problems with job creation. You opposed NAFTA, you voted for the World Trade Organization, but what would you do now if elected to deal with globalization, the lack of work, and some of those other things that you've worked on before?
Well, no one can deny that in the current age that we are in a global market. We have to compete in it, and competing in the global market is entirely different than giving up your sovereignty in order to do it. Agreements, as long as these agreements are crafted in a way that and approved by the Congress as they're supposed to, the Senate as they're supposed to be, and we can compete in the world market, that's fine with me. I don't have an issue with that. My issue is with the markets, in the sense that sovereignty can be threatened, and in many cases was threatened, and we should not be giving up those sovereignty rights in order to compete in the global market. Nor do we have to, but we certainly have to compete. Exports and imports are very valuable, especially in New Hampshire, but all over. Maybe one or two more, and we got to go. I know.
I just have one more. The
I'm sorry.
Senator, back in 1999, you went to the floor of the Senate famously and really criticized the Republican Party, being out of touch with the principles and neglecting its platform. How do you feel about it now? And when you say central planners, are you including the current Republican establishment in that definition as well? Have they changed? Has the Tea Party helped in that way? What's changed, if anything, in the party since then?
Well, I think that the Tea Party has helped a lot. They've been a tremendous asset, I think, in infusing new blood, new ideas, basically reminding us that we need to stick to our principles. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the Republican Party platform, John. I support I can't think of anything in it that I don't support. The problem when leaders go away from that and begin to cave on principles. And what I said in those remarks when I left the party for 4 months to make a point. I know what it cost me, and that was fine, but I did it because I believe that if we don't stand for principle, we stand for nothing. The great governor here, Mel Thompson, said that to me many times. You stand for something or you stand for nothing. And I said we would lose our power if we continued to sacrifice our principles, and that's exactly what happened. We did.
What about today's Republican Party in that same vein? Has it changed? Is it more close to the platform, to the principles, or is it the same?
Well, I think some are and some aren't, and I think that's what goes on in these primaries. We need to pick the candidate that we think espouses the closest views to those principles of our party, or it certainly represents them, and that's a decision for the voters to make. It's not my decision; it's theirs. And I think everybody knows where I stand on the issues. I don't know of any issue that I've addressed that isn't part of the Republican platform. There are those on the other side, however, in the establishment, perhaps, who can't say that. That's as far as I'll go. Did you have a question?
Yes, thanks, Bob. Representative Jeff Oligny from Plastow. I'd like to ask your opinion on a question for the New Hampshire people. I was encouraged by your discussion on Obamacare and the newfound idea the government could be a great healthcare administrator. Another kind of quiet epidemic that we suffer here in New Hampshire and nationally, nobody talks about it a whole lot, is family demise or divorce. There's a 50% divorce rate here in New Hampshire, as there is nationally. Many times, families are decimated through financial ruin, through acrimonious divorce, and as a result, children suffer, like your grandchildren suffer, and businesses aren't born, employees aren't hired. I mean, this is really hurting the New Hampshire economy. As a senator, what could you do about this?
Well, I don't know. I can speak to 48 years of marriage. I guess I'm somewhat lucky that my wife put up with it. I think anything that, the bottom line is on personal tragedies such as divorce, and they are tragedies when two people feel that they have to go separate ways for a reason. What the government needs to do is not do anything in any way that hinders the right of people to enjoy their freedoms and pursue their happiness and their dreams. That's it. That government has no responsibility, in my view, other than to protect them in that pursuit, not to interfere with it, but to protect them. That's it. I mean, that's.
Thank you, Senator.
All right.
Thank you very much for coming. The Senator will be around after the